detectives, and welcome to my video for November. Now this month's video is just going to be a really quick update because I am currently very busy with a project that I finally announced last month. I am of course working on the first draft of the 9th and final Murder Most Unladylike mystery, the 9th full-length murder mystery that Daisy and Hazel have solved together, and their last. It will be set in Egypt, so I have been on the Nile in my head all month, and just last week I finally finished the very first draft. Now that doesn't mean that the book is ready to be published or even that it is ready to be sent to my editor. It just means that I have gotten to the end of the story. And what I like to do when I write my books is write very fast. I basically put down words on the page as fast as I possibly can. I don't really care if it all makes sense. I don't really care if the story totally hangs together. As I'm writing, I'm inventing new plot points for Daisy and Hazel and their friends to solve. So that's what I have done. That's what I've finished. And the story is literally finished. I know what happens in the end, and it did make me cry. But what I have to do now is, I think, almost harder than that initial push. I have to go back, read through the story, and make sure that it all hangs together. And that's what I'm going to be working on over the next 2 weeks, working really fast, as hard as I can, to make sure that it is ready to send to my editor at Puffin on the 2nd of December this year. But even when it gets to my editor, that doesn't mean that it is ready to be published. Of course, the publication date is August 2020, and I know some of you will be wondering, if I finish the book, why doesn't it come out sooner? Well, what happens next is that my editor reads the book, she reads the first draft, and she comes back to me with lots of notes. Notes like, I think there are too many characters in this book. I think there are too many suspects. Why don't you put these two characters together and make them just one person? And things like, I don't understand why Daisy and Hazel go to this place at this time. It doesn't work. What if you sent them here instead? I would like to see more of this character. I think this character is really fascinating. Can you draw out that person? And she makes all of these really interesting, really helpful suggestions. Often they're things that I kind of know in my head, bits that aren't working, problems with the story, but I can't admit them to myself. I can only hear them when somebody else tells me about them. So my editor and also my agent helps with this as well. They both look at the text together and then they send me their thoughts. And then next month, in sort of December, January, I will look at their thoughts and I will put them into the story, and I will make the story a whole lot better. I will make a second draft of the story and I will send it back to my editor and my agent. And again, they will make comments and I will change things in the story, and then I'll send it back again in March. And they'll make smaller comments this time because at this point, normally, hopefully, the story is looking much better than it did when I sent it initially. So I'll make the small changes they suggest, and then after that, a few other editors will have a look at it to make sure that all the sentences make sense, that everybody is in the right place at the right time for the murder mystery plot to work. And finally, make sure that I've spelled everyone's names right. And when that is all done, which will be in about May 2020, then the book will go to be printed. And this is something that takes about another month because it takes a long time for the printers to produce as many copies as we've asked them to do. And by that point, it's sort of the end of June, early July, and then all the books get sent on trucks to different stores, or boats to different stores all over the country and all over the world. And that means that in August 2020, all of those books are ready in bookstores for you to walk in, pick one up off a table, go to the till and buy it. So there is a lot more in the process of publishing a book than I ever knew before I published my first book, Murder Most Unladylike, back in 2014. And it's a fascinating process. It takes so much longer than I ever thought it would. But I know that all of those bits of the process mean that the book is good enough for you all to read, because at the moment, I have to say, there's some good bits about it. There's some funny bits. There's some bits that I'm enjoying as I read back through it, but it is not ready to be published. It is not good enough for you guys to read it, and I would not want to publish the last book in my series in this state. So it does need the next few months to fix everything that is a problem in the text at the moment. So that is what I'm working on at the moment, and that is why I don't have time for my normal video, because I'm working so hard to make sure that this book is as good as it can be before it goes to my editor and my agent to be checked and for them to give me their suggestions. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. But I do have just one other thing to tell you, something that I have just announced and that I am so excited about. And that is that we have just one more treat for you this year. We have a special present for you this Christmas, and it's something that a lot of you have been asking for quite a long time. As you know, my books have been brilliantly read by first Gemma Chan and then Katie Leung. They are the readers of Hazel's voice in all of my books, and all of the Murder Most Unladylike mysteries have now been published in audiobook as well as in physical copy and ebook. And I'm so proud of those audiobooks. I think they are wonderful, and I'm so grateful to the Penguin Audio team for creating them so beautifully. But we have known that there has been one book of mine that has never been an audiobook because it's a bit more of a challenge than my usual novels. And that book is, of course, Cream Buns and Crime. And now this is a book of short stories told not only by Hazel, but also by Daisy and Beanie and Alexander and George. So it presented a bit more of a challenge to put it into audiobook. We knew we couldn't just have Katie Leung reading the whole book, that wouldn't be right, but we weren't quite sure how to produce it and make it seem exactly like the book that you have enjoyed reading so much. Until this year, when we finally decided to sit down and make a full cast recording. We have hired wonderful actors to play Beanie and George and Alexander and Daisy. You get to hear Daisy's voice for the first time ever. And there's just one more thing that if you have read Cream Buns and Crime, you may have wondered about, and that is that part of this book is written not in any of my characters' voices, but it's written in my voice. A few of these articles are told by me directly to my readers. And so Penguin Audio asked if I might be interested in narrating those bits for myself. They asked me if I would like to go and become an audio narrator. And of course I said yes. And so a few weeks ago, I went to the Penguin Studios in London, and I got to sit down and record parts of Cream Buns and Crime in my own voice. So at the moment, the Penguin Audio team are putting together all the different voices, Beanie and Alexander and George and Daisy and Hazel and me. And on the 26th of December this year, the audio version of Cream Buns and Crime will be available to download onto your device. So you can listen to this book read by a whole cast of characters. I am so thrilled about this. I know it's going to sound fantastic. I am so proud to have been involved with it, and I am so excited to finally hear the whole book when it comes out on Boxing Day or St. Stephen's Day. So that's all from me. I'll be back in December with more book recommendations and some suggestions of what you might want to give your friends and family this Christmas. But until then, goodbye from me, and also goodbye from Watson, who has been sitting on my lap as I've recorded this video. She says hello to you all. She has been sitting next to me as I've written this latest book, and of course as I've written all of the other ones. It is always lovely to have her next to me. What you can't see is right next to where I record is her cage, so she is pretty much always right here watching everything happen. But until December, goodbye.